This was brought to us by Love Dove Bunny. Trigger warning, calories, phrase calories do count, diet culture, diets, fatphobic language, eating disorders, self-criticism, soda, bottled water, beverages, those drink vending machines, rebellion. You know, I thought they had a theme going, but they had a trigger warning for the word rebellion. I did an act of rebellion at the mall today. I was leaving the mall, past one of those drink vending machines with soda, bottled water in it. I noticed a sticker with the above-mentioned calorie statement, replied, "No, they don't," peeled it off and threw it in the nearby garbage can. I didn't care who was walking by either. Yeah! BK Rocket. "No, they don't," I yelled in reply to a sticker. The passers-by in the mall stopped, awed by my joyful defiance. A lady bought a Diet Coke. I slapped it from her hands. "Full sugar or death!" I screamed in her face. She cried tears of liberation. She bought 2 Mountain Dew Code Red and chugged them right there in the mall. An old man cried. He took the Purple Heart off his Civil War reenactor's uniform. "Not all heroes wear capes," he says, as he clipped it on my hoodie. I lost the information as to who gave us this one, but it starts. I'm not exaggerating when I say that the current state of fatphobia is the equivalent of the state of sexism, homophobia, transphobia, etc. pre-1900s. That is how horrid and dire the situation is. Someone replies, "You know that women didn't have rights pre-1900s. They couldn't charge their husband for a word I can't say, couldn't open bank accounts, couldn't vote. And in many places they couldn't own property." Someone else replies, "Hey, blank, I don't think your obesity is anywhere related or comparable to my relatives who got rounded up and gassed by the Germans. I don't think it in any way is comparable to any form of suffering you're comparing it to. If you don't want to be obese, then you totally have the power to sort that out on your own." Something Blowfish brings us. One of my new favorite hobbies is finding vintage gunny sacks in skinny sizes and altering and modifying the dresses to fit me instead. The skinny resellers can't have this. I'm devaluing a small piece of history for my own overall happiness and enjoyment, and I don't care. Triggered Rat Bee replies, "How do you post stuff like this and not feel pathetic?" "I purposefully buy small clothes and make them fit me. Take that, skinny bees. Now you know how it feels. I'm devaluing history for me. Ha 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 ha." Like, girl, go outside. The skinny girls don't care, but they do like the money you give. Daisies and Daffodils adds, also, as someone who knows about sewing garments, this is most likely just not true. It's not as easy to do this as the OOP is making it seem. Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to make a piece of clothing that's skinny fit a person that's obese without tearing it to shreds. I guess you'd need 2 or 3 copies of the outfit and then sew them together somehow. But isn't that going to look awful? Plotter brings us something a bit disturbing. There's a TikTok post called "How to Look Skinny and Photogenic in Photos." Someone replies, "This may seem extreme, but I believe people who say things like this should die." Hashtag, "The fact that I had to see this stuff in my notifications, rancid." Hashtag, "Let's see how photogenic your body looks when I'm throwing it in a shallow grave." Hashtag fatphobia. Hashtag text post. How much do you want to bet that this person wears makeup, which is a way to try to make yourself look better? And there's nothing wrong with that. So why are they so mad that somebody makes themselves want to look better in a photo? Doesn't make sense. Brought to us by Girlfriend Help Me. Walking up the stairs was hard on my body because I carried a lot of extra weight. Maybe, but can you absolutely know for sure? In order to test that idea, you would have to lose weight without making a single change to your physical activity. No increased exercise, nothing, absolutely the same. It's easy to blame weight for feeling worse in your body without looking at what else has also changed. Did you used to be more physically active and a smaller body size, but then activity slowed and you gained weight? Could it be the decrease of physical movement as opposed to the weight gain itself? Do you know anyone a smaller size than you but also gets winded walking up the stairs? Or has knee or hip pain? What's the reason for them feeling that way? And how do you know it's different than yours? Do you know people who are the same size as you, or bigger, who don't have physical pain walking up the stairs? I do. Who are fitter than you? Could it be regular exercise that helps as opposed to the weight loss itself? There are so many factors that can contribute to feeling good or bad in our bodies, but weight gets all the credit or blame. And then at the end, 8-week private body acceptance coaching, highly personalized support tailored to you. Learn more at blank. I was going to comment on the sleazy marketing tactic here, but instead I'm going to show you me walking up the stairs with an extra 75 pounds. Please note that I can normally walk up the stairs without dying. Okay, so I filmed that only to realize that you can't tell how hard it is to walk up the stairs carrying an extra 75 pounds. So I just cut that. Brought to us by one replacement. This is kind of a weird take. All bodies are capable of different things. A child's body cannot do the same things as an adult's body, and vice versa. An elder's body cannot do the same as a child's or adult's body. A disabled body can't do the same as an abled body. A non-performer's body can't do the same as a performer's body. But as soon as a fat body can't do the same as another body, fat phobes freak out and use that as an excuse for treating us as inhuman. Because some fat people can't touch their toes or run a mile without breathing hard, our bodies are inherently wrong to them. This is despite no one's body being capable of doing every single thing someone else's can. Fatness is a normal aspect of human diversity and there is no single cure for fatness. So it's time to stop vilifying the fat bodies that have different capabilities than thin bodies and let people live their lives. There's like two concepts here. The first one is don't bully people. Not an issue, everyone can agree on that. The other issue, they present it in a confusing way. They're saying that different people are different, but fat people, if they lost the weight, would have more capabilities than when they're fat. They'd be able to walk up the stairs easier, they'd be able to go for a walk easier, they'd be able to run easier. The only advantage I can think of to being extremely overweight is that sometimes you're a little bit stronger if you're working out. Not faster, just stronger. And you're better at knocking things over. Are those really advantages? Puma con color replies, wait until I hear about the stand-sit test and how it predicts longevity. It really doesn't matter to me if someone wants to be fat, unfit, and have a poor diet. You do you. What bothers me is the denial of reality. We lose muscle mass and bone density as we age. The only antidote is regular exercise. This is valid for everyone, fat or thin. Cultivating physical abilities is also about aging with quality of life. So what is the stand-sit test? It basically is you get on the ground sitting and you try to get up. People who can do it well tend to live longer. People who can't tend to not live as long. It's just a simple test to see how you're doing. Space Time Ninja Pirate brings us. Person. I'm anti-diet culture, but pro-vegetables. Me. Huh? Someone replies, hi, I'm bad at context sometimes. Is the confusion that someone could be anti-diet culture and love veggies, or is the confusion toward the use of the word but as if those are two opposing statements? The original person replies, I understand that this post is difficult to understand without the context, that I am a fat-positive blog against diet culture. Sorry for the confusion. By the way, it doesn't say blogger. It says that they're a fat-positive blog. So the computers are coming to life, it seems. Someone saying they're pro-vegetables means that they still moralize foods. They still believe in healthy versus unhealthy, which makes certain foods inherently bad despite every food having some sort of nutritional value and able to be part of a well-balanced diet. What a load of BS that sentence was. If someone still emphasizes vegetables as being further moral than other foods... By the way, for anyone that English isn't their first language, that was a bad sentence. You can't be further moral. They are not participating in intuitive eating. Saying you're pro-vegetables is just code for, what you eat must still align with my beliefs, but I will pretend this does not count as diet culture. To truly rid the world of diet culture, We need to stop demonizing foods and forcing people's food intake to meet arbitrary requirements of health that change with every new headline and one-off 10-person study. It is certainly possible to eat vegetables while not putting them on a pedestal, and no one against diet culture has ever said that vegetables don't have nutritional benefits. This person is incredibly full of cow pie. Vegetables are more healthy for you than almost anything else you can imagine. They've shown in studies involving hundreds of thousands of people that eating more vegetables extends your life. That's not morality. That's purely statistics. It's no more moral than saying the odds against winning the big jackpot on the lottery is very small. Aggravated pineapple. Ah yeah, checks notes. Big farmers at it again with their sneaky pro-vegetable diet cultures. Ensign Alexandria. Makes me think of the Park and Recs episode where a leek guy, they think, at the farmer's markets trying to make veggies sexy to get sales, lol. I'll put in a clip of that if I can find it. And I remember.
Time to drink this money up about y'all!
Chart buddies, get a chart on?
Ishimura Huntress brings us. I was watching a video of this guy reviewing a cake slice from a famous bakery to see if I wanted to try it, and he eventually says that he's intermittent fasting, and that this slice of cake is the first thing he had eaten all day. I love how this shows the stupidity of diet culture. He's literally repeatedly starving his body because he thinks that's healthy, and then eating a slice of rich sugary cake for breakfast. Like, by all means, eat cake for breakfast if you want to, but it's extremely hypocritical to do so when you think diet culture is okay and healthy. Like, if you're fasting for health and then eating a dessert for your first meal you've eaten all day, a dessert that is viewed by general society as unhealthy at that, you are proving that you don't actually care about your health. You just want to stay thin, so you can keep thin privilege and walk all over fat people. That's all you actually care about? This person would be shocked to learn that the main thing that matters for your diet is the total number of calories in the macros. The specific time that you eat those nutrients has little to no effect on your health. And there have been studies showing that intermittent fasting might have health benefits beyond just regular dieting. Then again, it might not. Nothing is concrete yet. Own Scheme brings us. Last week, I heard my daughter read the label of a fruit snack. What does gluten-free mean? She asked, trying to sound out the words. And no added sugars? Our kids are exposed to diet culture everywhere. While we can't shield them, we can teach them to recognize and resist. Dear Lord, gluten-free isn't diet culture. Some people suffer horribly if they eat gluten. I had a friend lose like 50 pounds in just a few months because at the age of around 40, they suddenly got celiac disease. So, no, that's not diet culture. It's not bad at all. Putting gluten-free on the label is helpful to humans with celiac disease. Ms. Gus something brings us. The mom writes, my 7-year-old's homework assignment, y'all, it's 2022, can we please just not? The part they're upset with. Joe looks very thin because he hasn't eaten much. That upsets them. But their child also wrote this, which should be much more concerning. The girl had many different bracelets on her ships. She should probably be a little more worried that her child doesn't know where bracelets go or what they are. No Patient brings us. It's a picture of a healthy day's food. It includes lots of vegetables and fruit. It looks like it's kind of low calorie, maybe 1,500 calories. Someone replies, that breakfast is hardly anything, lol. The breakfast specifically seems to consist of some oatmeal, some yogurt, maybe Greek yogurt, and some blueberries. This is diet culture at its finest, they continue. At least there are cookies for a snack, I guess? Why do they think cookies are the filling part? Gullible Historian replies, well, that's what happens when you're trying to be at a healthy weight. You eat lightly with filling foods. Sure, it's not a lot of calories, that's the point. When you're trying to lose weight, your body can't burn fat if you're stuffing your face with cookies and potato chips. You need fiber to feel full, and this diet has loads of it. Obese people rarely get the recommended daily fiber, 20 grams for women, 38 grams for men, and it's part of the reason they're obese. Their sense of satiety has been seriously impaired by sugar abuse and addiction, literally destroying the metabolic mechanisms that tell your body, I'm nourished. Grumpy Foodie brings us. So they were on TikTok, I guess, and typed weight loss journey. And the first thing that comes up is you're not alone. If you or someone you know is having a hard time, help is always available. And it gives the number for the National Eating Disorder Association. David DD replies, the CCP doesn't want you to be healthy. For those who don't get the joke, China basically controls TikTok. Dana Doles brings us, if you're white, your opinions on anything pertaining to racism is null and void. They mean are. If you're thin, average size, your opinion on anything pertaining to fatphobia is null and void. If you're cis, your opinion on anything pertaining to transphobia is null and void. They mean to transphobia. If you're a man, your opinion on anything pertaining to sexism, misogyny is null and void. Kayberry replies, if you're overweight/obese, your opinion on anything pertaining to weight loss and fitness is null and void. Sounds fair, eh? The whole logic behind this is really kind of dumb. If you extend the logic to its natural conclusion, you start saying things like, if you're an adult, your opinions on babies are null and void. So only babies can have opinions about babies? And adults shouldn't be involved in making the decision for babies? My point here is just that if you're in a group, that doesn't make you all-knowing about the group and what's best for the group. And if you're outside the group, it doesn't mean that your brain is empty and full of no information. Scranton Bobati brings us. It's a picture of a person on an airplane. They're so large that they can't open up the tray table in front of them. There's a breathing tube on the side. Travel might look a little different for us plus-size folks. Folks is spelled with an X. But it's still possible. The airlines should do a better job accommodating us. But until then, I'll keep shouting my message from the rooftops. You deserve to travel just as much as anyone else. Sarcastic scientist. Why folks with an X? Folks with a K already exists as a word. LogTechG. Because X and KS are pronounced the same way, yet one uses a character less, which is just absolutely pivotal in saving time. That one extra character could mean the difference between actually making the post or dying of exhaustion. Sarcastic scientist. I wonder what they do with all their spare time. Same with people who type the letter U instead of the word U. Must be nice.
Why waste time? Say lot word when few word do trick.
Does it save time though? Because we've been here for about an hour.
LPSL also replies, if you're really large enough, you can't get the tray table open fully. How is that not a wake-up call? Reaper's Hound adds, is it me or is there a breathing tube as well? Big Primrose, yep. This person is in their mid-20s and has pulmonary hypertension. That's pretty scary. They're getting a series of wake-up calls, but they seem to be ignoring them. Extremely Unoriginal brings us. It's funny how if people are firm believers in evolution until it comes to fat people, as society had evolved and technology has evolved, so too have our bodies. But that's apparently not okay. We're supposed to look like we did 100 years ago, but act like we live in the 21st century. This person seems to have misunderstood the natural selection part of evolution, wherein people who don't fit their environment die. That's not happening. Our gene pool basically isn't changing at all because nobody's dying from disease or being killed by tigers or anything really. Most people live long enough to have kids if they want to, which basically means that evolution is not doing anything for humans right now. Alphaba brings us a person complaining about Rebel Wilson. Still, I can't believe this is still happening. It's unfortunate that we can't count on the previously fat-bodied people to include the currently fat. A woman who built her career on being the fat funny friend released a sweatsuit line that only goes to large, extra large, and then when she received backlash turned off her comments and stated, it was just a little experiment and we will be including more sizes and colors if it is successful. You know, that response makes a lot of sense. You're not going to include the extreme sizes that only a few people buy if nobody's buying the main sizes that more people are more likely to buy. They continue on complaining. This woman had a line of clothing with Torrid. She designed and modeled clothes for a plus-size brand, but made the choice not to launch this line with plus sizes. What's worse is many, many eyes looked at this launch before it went live, and still it went live without fat folks being included. When I speak about inclusion, I'm not talking about the small businesses that are barely staying afloat. I'm talking about people like this, with an estimated net worth of $22 million, made mostly off being fat and funny, who choose to not include us opening their doors in 2022. What do they mean by include us opening their doors? Is that a saying in some part of the world? And she expects what now? All of us fat people who weren't good enough for the first launch to buy her next? Nuh-uh. Mouse M replies, according to her own post, the actress had a line of clothing with Torrid, which means her first clothing line collaboration excluded all of her fans that aren't plus-sized. Bis Bomder brings us. A popular, unpopular opinion posted here is stuff along the lines of exercise is easy and people just need motivation. Or, it's not hard to find something you like to do for fitness. BS. Exercising is literally the definition of forced torture. Actually, it's literally not the definition. You push yourself to the point of stress on purpose. Some people would call exercise an N+1 activity where you always try a little bit harder. Or it's like practicing the violin where you try to do a piece that you haven't already mastered and isn't too easy for yourself. You know, you push yourself. That's called becoming better. They continue. It causes aches and often injuries. It might cause aches, but you should not be getting injured very often from exercise. That's pushing yourself too hard. You are also mindlessly doing pointless movements, which are basically just wasting time when you could be doing more productive things like art, cleaning, writing a book, or just producing something useful for society. It's the last thing I want to do to relax. Yeah, it's amazing how many people keep talking about writing a book but never actually do. Strange. I think the best way to put it is, writing a book is something people want to have done, but it's not something people want to do. Nothing about excess physical activity is appealing to me, and I will never like it. Sports can be fun, but they often feel unregulated and one-sided, unlike a tactical video game which uses algorithms to match you up with people actually on your skill level. You know, I've seen people complaining about the algorithms not matching you up with people on your skill level. That's strange. Why are they brushing over that detail? I hate wasting my already very little energy on some BS workout that gets me no results and just makes me unstoppably tired. Again, for people who English is not their first language, unstoppably is not a real word. I hate stressing about what I eat all the time when I already have fairly healthy, low-carb meals daily and are at a good weight. I just hate all of it. Why would you have to stress about what you're eating if you're already eating healthy? Doesn't make any sense. No amount of convincing can motivate me to work out. I'm definitely not going to sacrifice my already messed up sleep schedule to wake up early. It will ruin the tiny balance I have between my morning meds and staying awake for the entire day. I'm not going to waste my afternoon time traveling all the way to the gym and back because I already feel like I have no time left for actual projects I want to work on. Wait, if they time travel to the gym and back, that's not going to take any time at all. Are they a little confused? So having read that, what's one word you'd use to describe this person? Unhealthy. What's something healthy that you can do to make yourself feel better? It might improve your sleep. It might make it so you've got more energy throughout the day. And it might help you deal with your depression and video game addiction. Oh, I know. Exercise. Love Dove Bunny brings us. Trigger warning, mention of health in relation to food. Trigger warning, ... and more dots. I am proud of myself. Found a counselor who can help me with my current situation, which is traumatic. Tonight she asked me if what I ate last night was healthy. This was very triggering for me and honestly totally inappropriate given my current situation. I responded, but have now set a boundary about not discussing my eating habits at all, or anything related to them. I pushed back against her Fatphobia. She isn't straight-sized herself, just FYI. Given how bad the last fortnight of my life has been since I saw her, I'm amazed that I had the energy. And I still had the meal afterward that I had planned, nachos and peanut butter milkshake for anyone interested. Please, no change counselor suggestions. She's really helpful in every other way, as long as she sticks to her role. Cordelia replies, but what you eat does matter in terms of mental health? Like, I get it. We've all had that one person who thought that your trauma and depression would be cured with exercise and clean eating. And that's definitely not the case. But it really does help. Greasy, overly salty, or sweet things don't help with your mood or how your body physically feels. That doesn't mean you can't ever have them, but moderation is important. Your counselor was trying to do their job. Good job at making it harder for her to help you, dummy. You know what? We should bring back the word dummy. I don't think people use it quite enough. But then I guess I might be stuck starting a dumbphobia channel. Can we talk about her meal? Nachos and a peanut butter milkshake? That one meal sounds like a huge sugar and salt bomb. Maybe up to 2,000 calories depending on where she gets it. With tons of saturated fat. Very little protein. No vegetables except for the tiny amount you might consider from the peanut butter. This is not a healthy snack. This is the kind of thing that will make you feel like crap and depressed. And then you'll go on Secret Eaters and wonder why you can't lose weight. You must not be eating enough, you say. Ms. Beaver brings us. Fearing fatness because you think it makes you unhealthy is fatphobia and healthism in action. It's a multiple choice quiz, I guess. If I'm fatter, I will be unhealthy. If I'm fatter, I will be unfit. If I am fatter, I will be unattractive. If I'm fatter, I will be a failure. Health and fitness is the number one thing that folks mention when I ask the question, followed quickly by wanting to be sexy. Which makes sense. We have been told time and time again that fatness is a death sentence, and of course fat people are unhealthy. Listen, health is a super complex issue. One thing we do know is that most of what makes up our individual health is not in our control. We also know that you can be fat and healthy. Also, many people can't be healthy for a lot of different reasons. Health is not a barometer for worth. Health is not just being thin or being able to do certain physical activities, and those things don't even mean someone is healthy anyway. It's okay to be unhealthy. That is a lot of gish galloping. If we keep tying our self-worth with our health status and weight, then we perpetuate healthism and fatphobia. Go to the bottom of the post for a definition of healthism. And it's not a great place to get self-worth from, and hopefully we will be lucky enough to have a long life, which means we will lose mobility, our health will decline, and we will die. Therefore, we shouldn't try to make that take as long as possible. If your body is an able body, then that is a temporary status. So next time the thought comes up about fatness and health, and how the two are inextricably tied, do some digging and ask yourself where that belief comes from. Then they attempt to define healthism, but they make it into a multiple choice test. Healthism is the belief system that sees health as the property and responsibility of the individual and ranks the personal pursuit of health above anything else. 2. Healthism ignores the impact of poverty, oppression, war, violence, luck, historical atrocities, abuse, and the environment, which includes traffic, pollution, clean water, etc. 3. It protects the status quo, leads to victim blaming and privilege, increases health inequalities, and fosters internalized oppression. 4. It judges people's worth according to their health. You know, I think there really is something with healthism, but I think this definition is a little bit unclear, and I think you shouldn't lean on healthism as an excuse to not be healthy when it actually is in your control. A lot of people do have control over their health and can control it, at least to some extent. They shouldn't just say, oh, I was born into a rich family that can afford junk food, therefore I'm automatically unhealthy. It's a very strange thing to say anyway. Awkward Kaleidoscope replies, my mom turned 80 today and went running. Losing mobility as you age is not a guarantee, but you've got to put the effort in. Dr. Something replies, I can believe it. My mom's early 70s and goes backpacking all the time and seems like she's always on super long hikes or kayaking. I recently got a puppy and weighted hula hoop, and that combined with some pre and probiotic supplements drinking water and replacing a meal with smoothies, with even more vitamins and minerals, have me down 40 plus pounds, and the weight keeps coming off. I've never looked more toned in my life, and I'm a size 6 again, which I haven't been since I was 13. Autotelica also adds, I once did a week-long Road Scholar hiking trip in Sedona, Arizona. At 35, I was the youngest in the group, which had a median age in the upper 60s. The best hiker in the group was in her mid-70s. My slow-moving butt would consistently be toward the back of the pack. That trip really opened my eyes. I never went back home, vowing to be like them when I grow up. Meat Maid brings us, moderation is restriction, 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 moderation is restriction! It's Taco O'Clock replies, every choice we make implies a restriction. We can't do everything we want all at once. Presumably most people understand this is logical when it applies to anything but food. Why is food something we should endlessly indulge in? Brought to us by One Replacement. I fell for a weight loss scam. Literally all weight loss products, diets are scams, all of them. It's been scientifically proven that they are scams. I don't know where you're finding the ones that work. Hashtag worthy thoughts, hashtag diet culture, hashtag fatphobia. Actually, it has not literally been scientifically proven that they are literally scams. That is literally a lie or literally something very misinformed. This one's a little weird. Ethereal Skeleton brings it to us. It's a chain. Scientific explanation. People with uteri are supposed to have that little pouch right there to protect the uterus. They're talking about the little pouch of fat some people get right below their belly button. Because it has to do with the reproductive anatomy, that's probably why we're wired to find it attractive. Someone else, well, I never knew that. Someone else, because it's not true. The uterus is the size of a lime and makes no visible indent outside the body. What is true is that women store fat subcutaneously, which means it's between the muscle and skin, causing the pooch. Men tend to store it viscerally, under muscle around organs. Which, by the way, is much more unhealthy. Someone else adds, the uterus sits behind your bladder and is about the size of a pear. It doesn't sit up there at all. Someone made that up and the internet ran with it. Do you think people without that pooch don't have protection for their uterus? So I had to go to Wikipedia and look at a picture of the organs inside a woman. I show it here on the screen. And if you look, you can see the bladders near the middle. And to the right or behind the bladder is the uterus. So from the looks of it, it sits somewhere in the middle. And in no way should affect anything happening on the outside of your body, unless, of course, you've got something growing inside there, like a baby. Man-made stool brings us, why I'm not going to tell you your dog is fat. Content warning, O words, weight stigma, weight shaming, dieting, fat phobia. The majority of studies concerning our dogs, their body weights and health outcomes begin with the assumption that obese and overweight humans face a variety of health consequences because of their larger body size, and that humans and dogs are similar enough that obese and overweight dogs face similar health consequences, without ever blah 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 blah. True Crime Fanatic replies, people believe this nonsense so much that when I got 8 pounds off my dog in a year, the vet was suspicious. Did I know he lost 8 pounds? I said, yes, you told me he was fat. She was like, yeah, I say that all the time, but nobody ever does anything. So I wanted to make sure it was on purpose. Kurapikun brings us a little bit of sanity. This is a counter-argument to fatphobia is rooted in racism. It's by an actual black person. I'm a black woman who's currently losing weight. I lost 10 pounds so far, 10 more pounds to go. And these fat acceptance videos just motivate me to push harder to my goal. How dare they associate blackness with fatness? And how ignorant are they to not do their research to figure out this movement started from white men? The black community has many struggles. I would highly appreciate it if the fat acceptance movement would not tie me and our fellow black sisters and brothers into their garbage. This is not a movement anyone should be sticking up for. If you want to stay fat, that's fine, and I agree no one should be bullied due to their weight. However, I don't expect people to agree with this nonsense. Another person, black woman here. Obesity is prevalent in our communities due to food deserts, and how normalized oversugaring and overfeeding ourselves has become. Part of it is political, sure, food deserts, but a large part of it is strictly because our communities have said it's okay. We are not naturally fatter. Our communities have a lack of nutrition education, and it has to change if we want to stop dying of high blood pressure by age 50. I don't like that she's making it seem like obesity is natural for black folk, or for anyone. Normalizing it is the problem. Another person. Thank you for actually educating people on how socioeconomic status matters for weight gain. I'm a black woman who was raised in an upper middle class family. I know various black women of different ethnicities who are also middle class and are skinnier than even a lot of the white women I know. 4 black women out of the 20 I knew in my university were fat, and were usually international students from countries where it's known they have cultural foods that are high in calories. It's so stupid and honestly racism, in my opinion, that they are trying to use black and brown people to make themselves feel better about being fat. They always use that one fat black woman in history who was sent to work in a circus in Europe because of her body as an example, and it kills me every time. Like, you guys are really letting other people perpetuate stereotypes about us. Alright, now we're into more of the story section. Lana May asks, why does my husband say he likes me chubby when I bring up dieting? I recently brought up going on a diet to my husband, and he surprised me by saying he likes the weight I've gained since we got married. He told me men prefer women with meat on their bones, and he doesn't want me to be wedding day skinny again. Is this normal, or is he just telling me this to be nice? I'm 5'4" and around 170 pounds, give or take, depending on the day. I've put on roughly 40 pounds since the wedding, and I'm 23 years old. Let me know what y'all think. First of all, she is overweight. 5'4", 170 pounds is pretty round. That's close to the weight a man should have when they're 5'10". Whether or not her husband's just being nice or if he's got a fetish, how could we possibly know? But she should lose the weight anyway because she's not being healthy. This was originally written by Plastic Spat in Am I the Jerk? Trigger warning, there's some family fighting. She asks, am I the jerk for pointing out that my sister is morbidly obese during an argument? This doesn't quite go the direction you'd expect. I was born into a very unhealthy family. My siblings and I were all overweight by our teens. My siblings are now either obese or morbidly obese. As a teen, I lost weight and was mocked. I'd walk laps around our living room because I was too ashamed to walk out in public. Ate a restricted diet that I thought was healthy at the time. When I lost a noticeable amount of weight, but was still overweight, parents threatened to force feed me, would make cow noises at me, made comments on my appearance, etc. That's awful. I've spent the past several years trying to develop healthier habits, educated myself about nutrition, tried to eat a balanced diet, and to live a more active lifestyle. My parents and siblings gossip about how I have an eating disorder to people outside the family. My parents ask that I bring my 2 kids and stay with them to help out during isolation. My eldest sister and her 5 kids live with them. When I first came over, I started cooking for the whole household, but they wanted what they're used to eating. So now cooking for my kids and I, and making whatever my parents want to eat. My sister has been making snide remarks about how I'm trying to force them to be health freaks when I'm staying here. I do the shopping for the household, and even just bringing home vegetables or fruit, apart from apples, is enough to get comments or rolled eyes. I've been out walking, permitted so long as we socially distance and don't congregate. If I don't manage to get out in the morning, then I know there are more people out walking and don't want to risk it, so I walk laps around the backyard instead. I track my steps and try to hit 10,000 a day. I don't work out to avoid criticism. Walking around the yard upsets my sister. She thought it was her responsibility to call out my eating disorder. I'll be making my kids sick by walking laps around the yard and screwing them up like me. My parents agreed that I was being stupid. No one goes to such extremes in isolation. I asked them, what else should I be doing with my free time then? And they said to watch something on TV, like a normal person. I told them that it was my choice. My sister started yelling at me about how it was their house, should listen to them, and that I'm sick in the head. I got angry and told her I was finally healthy for the first time in my life, and being in the house with her would probably make me sick. And then she said, you think you're smart because you're skinny, but you're still fudging stupid. So I said, if I want health advice, I won't take it from someone who is morbidly obese. I know how much comments about weight can sting, so I do feel guilty about it. At the same time, I don't feel like her putting my weight or habits under a microscope was fair either. Am I the jerk here? Verdict, not the jerk. Update. I packed our bags and was preparing to leave yesterday. My dad saw me and asked if I was really going, and when I said yes, he told me that I shouldn't abandon them because I don't know how to deal with my sister. I told him that if he's going to let her harass me, then he isn't helping me to stay. He told me to stop being so dramatic, so I told him that I will apologize to her and stay if she apologizes to me first. He laughed at me and said it wasn't going to happen, and she doesn't apologize for how she deals with them either. My mom got upset, crying, when I was loading the car up and told me to stop being upset over small, stupid things. We're family, stuff happens. It's not fair to make my sister responsible for all of them in this time of crisis. If anything happens to any of them or my sister's kids, it'll be because I left. I started crying and she told me to just come inside and not do this to the kids. That is, take them away from their cousins. I told her my kids aren't staying somewhere, that I'll be disrespected and body shamed. She told me I was being ridiculous and was bored and looking for an excuse to leave. The kids and I are back home now. I don't feel relieved yet, just a little guilty. I don't believe I would have focused on her weight if she hadn't been so fixated on mine, and in the moment it felt like the only way to get her off my back was to point out how ridiculous it was that she was trying to help me, when she herself is not focusing on her own health. It came out in a very pointedly hurtful way. She literally pulled her arm back to slap me and stopped herself and walked off crying and called me a rude bee. I don't feel good about what I said. I don't feel good about how she was treating me either, or how it escalated this far, but I didn't feel like I could say anything to make her stop until I did. To answer a few questions, why did I come stay with them? I live over an hour away and didn't want to be driving back and forth with my kids. My parents asked me for help. They and my sister are very anxious about the virus. I assumed that because I didn't see them often and they reached out, they must have been desperate. My kids also like the idea of spending time with their cousins, and my partner is working OS at the moment. OS is overseas. When I came to stay 3 weeks ago, grocery delivery services were being canceled and our orders weren't being delivered fully. Shelves were pretty bare, but I'd shop at 3 different stores in the same complex to bring food home. This is easing up now, so I don't feel so bad. I stupidly assumed that because they asked for help, they would be more grateful. They're not. They won't ever be, that much is obvious now. They don't care about how my sister's words have hurt me, and I should know better by now. They taught her to be this way, and now that they're not picking on me to the extent that they used to, they're enabling her to do it. And now I realize that I was too, by staying. Do I have an eating disorder? I honestly don't believe I currently have an eating disorder, though I do believe I did have one in my teens. I don't track calories and I don't weigh myself regularly. According to my last weight, my BMI is 22. My sister is morbidly obese and is on the wait list for a knee replacement. I would hesitate to label her weight if there was no medical history there to back it up. I have 2 other siblings, and they are either obese or morbidly obese by sight, but I've never asked them. Why was I letting them insult and bully me? I was brushing it off most of the time from lack of a better coping mechanism. Retaliating or leaving didn't feel like good options at the time. I know that leaving will now paint me as the bad guy to friends and the rest of the extended family because I came to help and then gave up after insulting my sister. I'm not going to enjoy explaining this to people and losing respect for a lot of them in the process. Long story short, kids and I went home and didn't apologize. This one was originally brought to us by Throw.RA, Fiancé, Wait. I'm a 23-year-old female, and my fiancé, a 24-year-old male, has gotten way too overweight, and I'm now having second thoughts about marriage. We've been together since we were 18. He proposed last April, to which I was so happy. Back then, he was overweight by maybe 50 pounds. He'd gained this over the course of college. While it's of course not great, it also wasn't a deal breaker for me. I still enjoyed having happy times with him, and he was still active enough that we could live a normal life and have fun together. Since then, he's gone on to gain nearly 100 more pounds in a little over a year. He weighs over 300 pounds. It's ridiculous at this point. I completely understand eating a crappy cafeteria vending machine microwave diet when you're in college, plus the stress and late night studying or partying where snacking is standard. But this far exceeds that, His habits didn't improve after college. They just got worse. I've lived with him since our junior year and can attest that he eats far more junk food now, not less. Despite me shopping and making healthy, appropriately sized meals for the both of us. Not complaining about that. I actually love cooking and trying new recipes. I'm just pointing out, he won't eat healthy even though he doesn't have to put in any effort to do so. Also, fudge food delivery apps, seriously. No hate at all to the drivers trying to make some money, but on the customer end, it feels like the sheer 24/7 instant access to fast food has almost become a crutch to him. He has to order something almost every day. Never mind the hole it's drilling in our budget. He can't seem to resist this constant availability, knowing that he can get whatever he wants whenever he wants it, without even having to leave the house. This far predates quarantine, by the way. I can feel my interest in his body dwindling by the day. It feels horrible because I still love him for the person he is, but the physical part just isn't there anymore. It's a lack we both notice. The problem is he's not particularly motivated to do anything about it, because his happy time drive has decreased in an inverse relationship to his weight gain. He basically figures we're just equally not feeling like having much happy times these days. He doesn't connect that he's doing something to cause this. It's not just a fluke. And it's not only about his size either, it's also his tendency to just sit on the couch on his laptop and snacking all day. We used to do more things together. I've tried many times to get him to do stuff I know he's interested in, or used to be, but he usually turns it down in favor of the internet. I find it hard to find him attractive when that's all he does with his day. I've tried talking to him about all this. He alternates between saying he's not that overweight and saying it's not a big deal because he doesn't have any medical problems. But he can't know for certain because he hasn't been to the doctor in a while. In general, he sidesteps my worries by making jokes and acting really casual about it. Our wedding plans are pending due to COVID, but we decided we'll probably go ahead with just a very small official ceremony in September. Being so close to making this commitment to him, as he is right now, is seriously starting to give me pause. I don't want my husband to be like this for the rest of his life. I don't want him to die young. I mean, 100 pounds in a year? So where is he by the time he's 30 at that rate? I'm not sure why he doesn't see a problem. He seems content with how things are. He says he isn't depressed. I haven't pushed it, but did ask him a couple of times. And he didn't seem to understand why I was asking. I do know depression or other mental illness can cause things like this, and I know depression cannot always be seen by the people around you. But we are quite emotionally open with each other. He's never been a guy who struggles to talk about his feelings or problems. So this is unusual to me. He's caring toward me, goofy, chipper as always in his daily attitude. His hygiene is fine. You wouldn't think anything was different if not for how he eats garbage, and usually doesn't want to do anything that'd take him away from the computer or his phone for more than an hour. Could he still be depressed, do you think? What do I do about this? If he is struggling with something, I want to support him. On the other hand, if it's just laziness and not caring, I honestly don't think I could deal with that if it never changed. How do I tell the difference? Update. Well, here goes. I took a number of suggestions on what to bring up to him and how to have the conversation about my concerns. He did the usual thing of trying to brush it off. I persisted, much more than I have before. Eventually I got my wish. He finally told the truth. Not easily, mind. This was a several hours long ordeal. He did not want to come clean about anything. He has a weight gain fetish. Not me, or someone else gaining weight, which I already knew was a thing, but him gaining weight. He's been doing all this on purpose for years. He said the beginning was unintentional, just eating too much junk at college. Then he realized he liked it. He also realized if he let himself balloon too much, I might bail. He didn't want to lose me. So, he had enough self-control to keep it at a moderate level until I accepted his proposal last year. That was apparently the green light he needed to throw restraint to the wind and start pursuing this fetish full speed ahead. I never had a single inkling of suspicion the entire time. I guess I can't blame myself for that because dramatic weight gain is usually for the reasons I assumed. Depression or stress or bad habits or just getting comfortable and not caring. You never hear of sexual motivations. I still feel like a complete and utter fool, like I got played hard. This was not what I thought I was marrying into. When, if ever, was he going to tell me? He claims he would have when it was the right time. What does that mean? Next week? Doubt it. Years in the future when we maybe have kids? More likely. Oh, and the reluctance to do anything requiring getting off the internet that I mentioned? That's because he's posting in forums and Discord fetish communities talking about it. All these people share weight gain tips and compare progress pictures of their bellies and write sexual roleplay stories. I'm truly disgusted. I've obviously been sat right next to him countless times while he gets off in his own little world. He has even discussed with random strangers how to keep me in the dark. Apparently the most common suggestion was to play dumb and make it into a running joke. So there's my explanation for why he constantly dismissed anything I said. Unbelievable. This has been going on right under my nose for years. I really cannot fathom how I could be so clueless, and that the person I thought I knew had the gall to not only intentionally make himself obese, but to hide his motivation from me, seek out advice on how to do that, and to lie to me over and over when I attempted to talk about my worry. I expressed how I felt seriously betrayed, like our relationship had been built on a false pretense without my knowledge. He did apologize sincerely. He said he would try to lose weight. I asked why he's only saying that now. Why did he refuse to discuss, let alone change anything, all the other times I asked what was up, leaving me to be confused and worried instead? He didn't have an answer. He just begged me to give him one chance, and promised he'd stop and get healthier. My problem is, I just don't know if I can believe that. And even if he follows through, I don't know if I can get over being lied to. For years. I was so dumbfounded that I asked him to leave today, so I could collect my thoughts. He'll be back tomorrow night. 100% sure I want to call off the engagement. 80% sure I want to just bite the bullet and end the relationship. Fudge this. I absolutely love this man. Why did he have to do this? Witchy Freunda asks, this year my fiancé, a 26-year-old male, and I, a 27-year-old human, got engaged, and I agreed to join him and his extended family for Christmas. Only problem is the food. I used to have a very serious eating disorder and was hospitalized. Anorexia with binge purge. I've gotten over the worst with a few small slip-ups, and I still struggle with food and count calories, but I've not purged in 6 months, a big record for me. Going low carb a few years ago really helped me start to eat more normally and not get triggered. I love food and cooking, and this diet, along with being more health conscious, has allowed me to enjoy food eating again, even if I still struggle, and I'm grateful for it. I avoid too much sugar and processed food and high fructose corn syrup. I read labels and try to avoid anything with unnecessary added sugar that isn't a dessert. I don't eat fast food and don't eat bread, rice, pasta, though since dating my fiancé, I've loosened up a little, and occasionally will eat healthier carbs, buckwheat, chickpeas, lentils. I do enjoy some treats and sweets, but it's important that they're made of good, real ingredients and not processed or generic store-bought, prepackaged treats. I love baking, and I'm more comfortable eating my own homemade treats because I know what's in them, and the flavor is way better than store-bought. My fiancé's family is more standard American diet, and I'm worried there won't be much I can eat. His family eats pasta on Christmas Eve, and most of the sides they have Christmas Day are carby or have sugar and processed ingredients and store-bought pie for dessert. I don't want to be difficult. I never ask anyone to make anything special for me, but I'm not willing to give up my diet even for one day. I don't want to be triggered. I also don't feel good if I eat too many carbs or processed food. Get bloated, heavy, and gassy, and get really anxious and can't enjoy myself because I feel guilty, even if I resist purging. I also am very conscious of my health. My eating disorder damaged my health, and trying to be as healthy as possible going forward is very important to me. I'm sure there will be at least a salad or some side dish there I can eat, and the main is meat, which is fine, but most sides, snacks, and desserts, store-bought, processed, are things I wouldn't eat, and I want to enjoy my holiday meal and be able to have a dessert I'd like. Would I be the jerk if I brought a side dish and a homemade dessert that I know I could feel okay eating and enjoy? I would make enough for everyone and bring them as a contribution to the meal. I don't want to seem weird or rude or offend his family, but I worry it would be rude to show up and not be willing to eat most of the food, and I don't want them to think they have to make anything special for me or feel bad if there's nothing I can eat. I don't know if they'd think it rude if I brought some food, but it would be extra dishes for everyone and would allow me to enjoy a special holiday meal and treat as well. Thoughts? She adds, my significant other is very understanding and supportive of my diet and usually loves the low-carb meals I cook. Low-carb definitely doesn't mean not tasty or flavorful, and is willing to order less no carbs if we're eating out and splitting something. I do most of the cooking because I enjoy it. He cooks sometimes but isn't a super confident or experienced cook, So sometimes he'll ask me for a recipe, or he'll be willing to cook as long as I can instruct him how. So he basically follows my diet unless we're eating out or going to an event or something. I'm fine with him eating what he wants if he's cooking for himself or we're going out. Just, I'm not really willing to cook food that might be triggering for me. And I'm a pretty good cook and love finding new recipes and coming up with my own, so he rarely has any complaints, beyond jokes about missing pasta every now and then. He's told me that his family is pretty attached to their traditions, and there's some traditional family recipes they always make. I get the impression that they may be sensitive or think I'm rude because of some of the stories he's told me. For example, his grandpa has a traditional green bean casserole recipe that he always makes and is extremely proud of. There's another family member who makes a green bean casserole as well that's better than grandpa's, but people will go out of their way to make sure they both get eaten in order to avoid offending grandpa, who's so attached to his recipe. Witchy Freunde replies to herself, Update. I tried to discuss things with him, and brought up the idea of me bringing a few dishes to share. He said no, and that they liked their meal the way it is, and wouldn't want to change it, and we had an argument, and he ended up saying I just shouldn't come, and that we could just meet the family some other time. I'm not really sure how to deal with things, and it really throws a wrench in my holiday plans since tickets for me to go back to my hometown have gotten a lot more expensive. I'm wondering if it might be rude to reach out to his mom. I have a pretty good relationship with his mom, and ask her if it might be okay for me to bring some stuff. She also knows about my eating disorder, but at the same time, I wonder if that would be overstepping a boundary since he did uninvite me. Then someone brings up a post that somebody else has written that relates very strongly to hers. It seems to be her boyfriend. Am I the jerk? From Wrongdoer Delicious. I invited my girlfriend of 3 years to my family Christmas. We've never spent holidays together. She likes to visit her family out of state, and I really wanted her to finally spend a holiday with us. My girlfriend is keto and in recovery from a serious eating disorder. She starved herself and would make herself throw up, and does most of the cooking, and I'm okay with that because she's a great cook and always makes tasty dishes, and I'm happy to make food she'll eat when I cook. Keto helps her stay on track with her recovery, and I understand that. But don't see why she can't have the occasional cheat day. She tries to be healthy and tries to avoid preservatives and sugar, but sometimes has a dessert with me, but will only eat stuff she's cooked herself because she has to know what the ingredients are. However, my family is very traditional, and she definitely isn't. My dad, sister, and I, Mom is dead, have a tradition of eating lasagna on Christmas Eve and on Christmas Day. My family is very traditional with side dishes and desserts, but like to switch it up and do something interesting every year for the main. This year it's going to be pizza. The paragraph started with how traditional they were, and then ended with pizza. We love our traditions. For example, Grandpa always brings the same sweet potato casserole with marshmallows, and usually use traditional recipes and buy pies from the store for dessert. I've told my girlfriend a lot about our traditions, and she asked if she could bring a few dishes and a dessert, since she can't eat most of the food, but I think she's just being picky. Like she says she couldn't eat a green bean casserole from a traditional recipe because it has canned soup in it, and she doesn't want to eat anything with too many preservatives. I said no, she shouldn't bring dishes, because my family really likes our meal as is, and I feel like it would be rude to bring your own food to someone else's event. She doesn't like store-bought pies, because they don't taste as good as homemade. Says they aren't worth the calories, which seems nitpicky. I said she should just let go a little and enjoy one special meal that's not part of her diet. It's not that big a deal. Then she asked if instead she could just bring her own separate meal, and I said no, because that seems even more rude. I told her she should come and eat what she could, and just take some of the dishes she won't eat, to not offend my family, but she said she couldn't do that because it might be triggering for her to even have that food on her plate. At that point, I just straight up uninvited her, because everything she suggested seemed rude, and like she was being difficult, and this would be the first time she's meeting my extended family, and it would make a bad impression. She got upset and really hurt, and I think she's just overreacting, but her BFF, Joe, who's also a friend of mine, said I was being harsh and didn't understand how much she might be struggling from her eating disorder. I don't think that relationship's gonna last. That guy's got way too many issues. Bringing some food for yourself to eat when you can't eat the food that other people have is not rude. Alright, so this was posted in r/science by Wagamaga. Overweight women most likely to suffer long COVID. The study is one of the largest studies on long COVID in the UK. It shows that having a higher BMI is linked with the condition and that women are more likely to experience long COVID than men. So they don't exactly know what long COVID is caused by. It's basically when your conditions last more than 12 weeks. Apparently 2 million people in the UK have long COVID. That's 3% of the population. That's a huge percentage of the population to take out. I would call that pretty serious, and I wonder if losing weight would help the long COVID to go away, or if it's too late by then. And how long till some fat activists react to this article and say, no, it's because of stigma that they have long COVID, or whatever crazy thing they like to say. One last scientific article, this one brought to us by Sullen Avalanche. This was originally published in Medscape. Highly processed foods as addictive as tobacco. According to a US study, highly processed foods meet the same criteria as tobacco for addiction, and labeling them as such might benefit public health. It goes on, the scientists say that the contribution to preventable deaths by a diet dominated by highly processed foods is comparable to that of tobacco products, and as such, the authors seek clinical recognition and a more formalized protocol to manage food addiction. They also write, even in the face of significant diet-related health consequences, for example diabetes and cardiovascular disease, the majority of patients are unable to adhere to a medically recommended dietary plan that requires a reduction in highly processed food intake. So, it's incredibly addictive. So much so that people can't stop eating it. Thanks for listening to that episode. Extra special thanks go to Emmett McNally, Rig, Cupcake or Death, MMC, Story, Megtran 2000, Cly, That One Guy, Maria P, Average Loser, Wolf Child Rusk, Just a Girl, and S. West. If you enjoyed this episode, consider clicking like and maybe subscribe. If you really liked it and have the money to spare, consider becoming a member. I wish all of you wonderful people a wonderful day.